If we had talked 3 weeks ago, and I said Ryan Fitzpatrick and Patrick Mahomes are the two hottest names on the planet, I think we would have shied away in fear. But here we are, and I want to start with Ryan Fitzpatrick because that one certainly came out of the blue. There's one person here who thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be great, so we'll wait on that one.
Two people.
Okay, well, let's get to Fitzpatrick first. What is Fitzpatrick doing now that he's never done before?
I think overall, he's just throwing it accurate. I mean, you look at his 20-plus throws, all 6 of his completions, 20-plus down the field, all accurate throws. It's not like we got Mike Evans going up and making plays or Deshaun Jackson, but he's throwing accurate, and you can kind of just, when a quarterback's just feeling it, they're looking guys off, they're throwing underneath defenders. There's times where he is just looking guys off, throwing it behind a backer, and you're like, so he's just feeling it right now. I mean, it's fun to watch him play just when he's just in a flow.
And he's avoiding turnover-worthy plays. That's what's different. And he's doing it 2 games in a row. Yeah. So I was on the podcast last week, and I said, okay, he's going to regress, right? He had this ridiculous week 1. The last time he had a grade of 90+, he came back the next week, had one of the worst games we've ever created in the history of PFF.
I warned you about the trend zone. I warned you about it.
I know, I got caught up in it. But I know he's a roller coaster. It's Fitzmagic roller coaster. It's got to come down at some point. But right now, 10 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy throws. It's incredible.
I don't think it's unusual for him to have a graded throw on 55-ish% of his throws, but the fact that 10 times as many are positively graded than negatively graded speaks to Zach, talking about how accurate he's been. I would say that the fact that his big-time throw rate's above 10% is probably something is going to regress to the mean here, as that's one of the more unstable things. But it is really crazy that even if you look further down the list, he is just completing even those 0.5 graded throws at a really, really high rate.
It is interesting. It's it is the perfect team for him. Even though we're giving him credit, there's a reason why he's a 98.5 passer for us, because we're giving him credit for the accuracy. But this is the perfect team for a guy like him because he's aggressive, right? I mean, look at all these playmakers that they have in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they took a shot on the first play of the game last week. I mean, they're just that coaching staff is under heat. They're like, hey, we got to stay aggressive, and he's been. I mean,
it's shocking that aggressive football play bears results. We've never seen this before. What's interesting, though, I'm curious, because we know, throwing into tight coverage is something that's fairly unstable, and there's a smaller margin of error there, right? So Fitzpatrick has the lowest uncatchable throw rate into tight coverage, which is great. Give your receiver a chance. But 2 or 3 of those go a different way, and the narrative can be different. So I'm curious, when you're thinking about it from a quarterback's perspective, is that coming to your mind? I'm throwing in tight coverage a bunch. I've been perfect. I hope I don't mess up.
I think he plays with just he just doesn't even know that stuff's going on. He's so just fearless each time that he could throw. That's why he can throw 4 picks in a game. That's why he can have all these. He just keeps coming back, throw after throw, and he just right now just unconscious. I think his under pressure numbers are really high right now too. So we're looking to. That'll regress, I'm sure.
But if you think about Tampa Bay's approach to the first 2 games of the season, it's absolutely perfect, right? They play in probably the best division in all of football. To actually win that division or to be competitive, you have to go balls to the wall. Their head coach, I think, was the Vegas favorite to be fired first.
Yeah.
And so from their perspective, I absolutely just love the way that they've approached it. Beating teams like New Orleans and Philadelphia, we had them as the toughest schedule in the NFL going into the year. And now after 2 weeks, the whole complexion of that entire division, the whole complexion of that entire conference changes, because I think the whole NFC, except for Tampa Bay and maybe New York, thought they had a chance to make the playoffs. Now even Tampa Bay's in that equation.
All right, so before we move to Patrick Mahomes, question here. If Fitzpatrick has an awful game, do you go back to Winston? If he doesn't, how quickly are you trying to trade Winston and make maybe a push for this season?
I just can't trust Fitz. I can't trust Fitz for the whole season. I like him.
So I think it's going to take two back-to-back games from Fitzpatrick.
Back-to-back. So no matter what, we've got Fitzpatrick continuing on past this week.
I would say past, yeah.
Yeah, and with Pittsburgh's defense the way it is, it's a pretty good chance that he'll move on.
But we said that's what Steve said about Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia's going to eat him alive. So
I was wrong. I could be wrong. Look, he's stealing Jameis's breakout season. This was supposed to be Jameis's breakout season.
The way he was playing the preseason.
Well, I mean, what could you get for Jameis Winston?
Well, but that's to George's point.
To who needs a quarterback?
Who in the NFL needs a quarterback? Well, who in the NFL thinks they need a quarterback?
Who thinks they need a quarterback right now? There's one team, maybe.
That's a different issue, but I would The Giants?
Yeah, maybe the team that picked second in 2014.
Yeah, well, they got a great quarterback in Kyle Loretta, but might not be ready yet. All right, let's move to Patrick Mahomes. So we have resident Chiefs Philiac here. Does this exceed your wildest dreams?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
You sure about that?
Like, our win projection for the Chiefs was somewhere around 8 or 9. We thought that they had a chance to, if variance hit, they had a chance with the coach quarterback combination to be a contender. But in my opinion, the first 2 weeks, we thought the LA Chargers had a really good defense going into the year, and then Pittsburgh was a team that had always had the Chiefs number. It seems like Patrick Mahomes is upending all of the assumptions that people have made about Kansas City having Alex Smith and Andy Reid for the last 5 years. I think it's exceeded my expectations, and the fact that he is one of those quarterbacks that doesn't have turnover-worthy play yet, that was the knock on him versus Smith, was that he's just going to put more balls in harm's way. That has not been the case so far.
So I want to throw this out there because I do think Mahomes is great, but I want to hear from your guys' perspective, how much of this is Andy Reid? I'm going to throw this out there. On throws at or past the sticks, the most valuable throw in football, Patrick Mahomes has an 89% open throw rate, so a step or more of separation. 90% of his throws at or past the sticks are to guys that are open.
Yeah.
Well, that's the playmakers too, right?
Yeah,
you thought it was going to look like a Big 12 offense, and it has.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing is, like, do you play man? Do you play zone? Because nobody can man up against him. If you play zone, that guy's fearless in zone. So we saw the Steelers play a bunch of two high coverage, single high in the red zone, and he was just gashing them up the seam. So a lot of it is a combination of Andy Reid. They emptied him out last week, and then the playmakers, and then his just fearlessness to let things go in his zone coverage. Because that was Alex Smith's knock.
Yeah.
If he sees some zone coverage, cover two, he's taking one glance, checking it down. Mahomes is like,
He's running.
Well, that's the other thing. So I think part of this is Reid. We've talked about how great Reid is as a play caller.
In our coaching metrics, he looks terrific.
So this is a part of it is Andy Reid. Finally, his brilliance is being like really shown. And then there's the Alex Smith factor too. Like, have these been here by and large for the past 3-4 seasons? And finally, there's a guy that's saying, I'm willing to let my average depth of target be 13 yards down the field.
However, the point I made before the season, even though I think Mahomes has a chance to be much better than Alex Smith with as far as a value add type of quarterback, Alex Smith still was the most accurate downfield thrower last year, had the highest adjusted completion percentage. That overall season is tough to duplicate for Mahomes, even with what he's done 2 games into the season.
Tyreek Hill's messed with the wide receiver curve, right? Being a 5th-round pick, right, out of a small school. He was good as a rookie. He was terrific last year, but he's in year 3 as a receiver, too. So not only is Mahomes coming into play, but also Tyreek Hill's building himself into, like, the spot where most wide receivers make a lot of their money. And then what's really nice is the first week, Tyreek Hill did most of the damage. They had basically nothing from Kelsey, nothing from Watkins. Last week, Hill had a touchdown, but it was Watkins. Demarcus Robinson caught a touchdown. Chris Conley caught a touchdown. And then Kelsey up the seam and made Sean Davis and the safeties for the Pittsburgh Steelers look terrible, in the red zone and in the middle of the field even.
But so what makes them scary though is all of it, right? Because it's Andy Reid's going to scheme stuff up, or that offense is going to scheme it up. The playmakers are unique and explosive. And then inside of structure, Mahomes can do all that stuff, but he's also special outside of structure, and that's why they're going to be so tough.
We haven't seen that much of it for a while. Yeah.
And additionally, the first few years of Andy Reid and Alex Smith, the Chiefs had a good defense, and so there wasn't a sense of urgency offensively. I think Andy Reid is fully aware of how poor his defense is and plays with a sense of urgency offensively every single possession, because they know that last week they were up 21-0, and before you knew it, they were tied. So they just know, and against the Chargers, the same thing, that they have to have their foot on the pedal the entire game, and I think that's going to be really good if you want to watch Mahomes and really see him develop here, because he's going to be asked to do a lot.
All right, so more likely to sustain play, Fitzpatrick, Mahomes, go.
Mahomes, I mean, you don't know the negative variance.
I can't, I think it's not even close, and I'm going to go back to the open throw thing, right? 90% overall of Mahomes' throws are guys with step plus a separation, and he's got an average depth of target.
Average on that is closer to 55, 60.
It's nowhere near 90.
Not 90.
I'll tell you that. I think the average in the league right now is 62.
There you go.
So, I mean, that is when you pair a guy that is that talented with a coach that is that talented, an offense that is skilled, I'm willing to bet on Mahomes going forward, even with the small sample.
Yep.
All right, other quarterbacks that we want to talk about, guys that are interesting that you think have done some things that maybe we weren't expecting or have dampened expectations based on what they've done?
I mean, I think Mitch Trubisky, everybody thought that the scheme coming in with Nagy, they got all these guys around him now, and he just has not taken any step forward. I think, the Monday night game, watching that was painful at times. I mean, just like you want him to just hang in the pocket, poise, and make the throws from the pocket, and those haven't come up yet.
How much concern is there? It reminds me a little bit of A.J. McCarron when he was a starter. He would look good on the scripted play. The first 10 to 15 plays of the game, he looked really good. And the first 2 drives that the Bears had against the Packers and then against the Seahawks, it's like, look at this offense. Right. You've got spreading the field horizontally, vertically, they're mixing it up, they're moving them, and it just looks like this really well-scripted offense. And it's like, all right, here's Trubisky, he's having a good game. Yeah. He looked so good that first drive against the Packers especially, and then it falls apart. How concerning is that, just the script versus the rest of the game?
No, I think so, because when defenses start adjusting, they see how they're going to try to attack. What's his counter, and he hasn't had much. And teams, the book on him is teams love to blitz him on the third and mediums, third and longs.
Most blitz quarterbacks are down.
That's where he just looks lost. And so that part, we wrote it up coming out that there was a concern, and would he get better against the blitz? And we just haven't seen in 2 years.
Yeah, just before the season, I checked his third down blitz. I just watched all of his third down plays. And that was the thing that stood out last year against Cleveland in particular. Just looked very uncomfortable against the blitz. It just hasn't improved.
I mean, he had the worst pass rating on third down versus the blitz and was blitzed the most on third down. And also the highest sack rating.
Are you saying our film study is matching the stats?
It's matching perfectly. This was a conversation that we had, with NBC when we had the Packers-Bears game. What's the deal? What are the downs? Because everyone talks about the pluses, right? Mm-hmm. He's got Nagy coming in. Look what Nagy's done. But what are the things that worry you that... Look, Nagy can be great, but you've got to be able to kill the blitz. Everyone kills the blitz. Brady kills the blitz. Breeze kills the blitz. And going back to, Nagy, he was the guy. He's bringing that offense that Kansas City is currently using, right? Yeah. And if you look, we just talked about Mahomes at or past the sticks, right? He's on fire. Highest uncatchable throw rate at or past the sticks, Trubisky. So you can scheme him all you want, but if you're not making accurate throws to guys in that valuable level of the field, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you can't make throws on a play-for-play basis. He has a higher rate of negatively graded throws than positively graded throws. That's not good.
Is that bad?
Yeah. Yeah, and offensively, they're not slouches in terms of their supporting cast. Trey Burton was brought in with a lot of fanfare. He hasn't really done much of anything. Allen Robinson, the guy, Taylor Gabriel.
Anthony Miller.
And Anthony Miller, the 2 running backs.
Nice touchdown.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It's like, as we get more data, we start to contextualize what these games mean. The Bears are probably a better than 7 point team against Seattle, and they kind of kept Seattle in that game despite the fact that they played about as bad as they could. And I think a lot of it was Trubisky just missing open throws, missing opportunities, even in some cases turning the ball over. So I don't know. I think if you're Chicago, you have to be concerned here in an NFC North where I think Green Bay and Minnesota are going to sort of
You're telling me
themselves.
Khalil Mack didn't vault them over Aaron Rodgers?
It was close.
Unacceptable.
It was close at 1 point, George.
Don't get me started down the Khalil Mack trade rabbit hole.
We're not doing Khalil Mack trade.
Let's dive into some other quarterbacks. Steve, what's a guy that you think his first 2 weeks have been interesting?
I mean, I look at Blake Bortles. I debated Sam on the podcast. I got very angry at Sam on the podcast because he was living in this black and white world of Blake Bortles is bad. And I'm just like, well, look, in the NFL today, there's the top 5 quarterbacks. There's kind of like 6 through 8, and then there's 8 through 30. Mm-hmm. And any given year, it's like scheme, and it's receivers, and it's a couple bounces here and there. And Bortles he's between 8 and 30 in the NFL. That's where he lands. Right now, he's playing well. They called a great game against New England. He had a ton of open throws, and he executed. So he's not bad. I think he's on the average-ish side, and he can have some disastrous games, but he can have some good games like he did Sunday.
Well, they can scheme him throws, and he's not making a ton of big-time throws, but on those plays where those receivers are open, right, he's making 3 times as many positively graded throws as negatively graded throws. So he's doing a lot. His receivers are helping him as well. I don't think it was a receiving core we had rated highly, but Keelan Cole and Moncrief and those guys have really made him look good as well. So it was a very effective passing offense against New England, and it was needed.
And they were aggressive when they needed to be, demonstrated the opposite of the AFC Championship.
What about Andrew Luck? So everyone's talking about us not throwing the ball down the field. Should we be worried about it? On a throw-for-throw basis, though, are you concerned about it? Do you think?
I mean, You want to see more. He did toss a great throw to T.Y. Hilton that got called back from penalty last week. That it was right on the hands. If the defender didn't get in there, it was going to be completion. So you want to see some more of it, but I think once as this season gets going, there's been such a hey, we got to get the quick game going. We got to get all that stuff going to protect Andrew Luck. I think we'll see more of the deep play action shots. Here in the coming weeks, I guess.
Maybe after Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Maybe want to keep Fletcher Cox.
Stick with the quick pass game for now.
Yeah.
My question with Andrew Luck, when he first came out, I've said this to you a few times, Zach, I thought he was going to be on this Brady, Manning type of spectrum stylistically. Not necessarily at that level, but stylistically, where he would be a quick game genius and you'd be able to drive the ball down the field. And he ended up more of this Big Ben, Brett Favre type of boomer bust player, right? The cluster 3 guy, which is more the stuff that you guys have come up with where you say a cluster 3 guy has way more variance to his game. He's going to make the special throws. He's going to make the disastrous turnover-worthy play. I don't know if I want to contain Andrew Luck. You know what I'm saying? I want him to be able to make those big plays, take a couple of mistakes, but we also don't want him getting hit either. It's a tough position.
So here's the funny thing, though, is that you've quickened his time, right? He's making these quick reads. Have the turnover-worthy plays necessarily gone away? No, right?
He's still under pressure. He's got the most turnover-worthy throws under pressure.
There you go.
He still has that I got to make a play mentality when things are breaking down.
This is the Cam Newton thing that we've talked about a lot. Like, do you want to increase Cam's completion percentage and give him more open throws because he is one of the least accurate quarterbacks from a ball location standpoint in the NFL? Yes, you do. But do you want to take away the special throws that Cam can make? No way. Those are way too valuable. You deal with some of the mistakes and you deal with some of the overthrows.
Right, their favorite move for all those years was to have Andrew Luck put up, create a fire and then put it out in the third and fourth quarter, and that was sort of how you got the best out of him. I think now he's pretty confined. I will say though, looking at some of the outcomes, so his EPA per throw is negative slightly, but he has above average PFF grade. I think those will start to come together a little bit, and the Colts offense might have more success than they have so far, just based upon his grades.
In Frank Reich, I trust. Willing to bet on Frank Reich. All right, this is our Thursday quarterback discussion. We'll hope to have a few more as we go on, and we'll see if any of the things that we saw come to fruition.
They will. It's going to be a good week.